Alright, so in our previous game, the coterie brought an end to the rebellious cabal plotting in York. Dorothy, Anselmus, Randall Penborough, and apparently Robert de Vere, who had fled the city already. Anselmus was struck down into torpor. Dorothy staked after giving up everything she knew was able to give. Randall Penborough having escaped by sorcerous means, perhaps to Durham, perhaps elsewhere. Despite pleas made by some of the coterie, Dorothy and Anselmus were executed, set to face the dawn. As this happened, Robert, with his own cunning, managed to survive and summon his ghoul, and was saved by Guy de Free, who fortunately had enough skills in ranging the countryside to bring them back to Chester, safe and sound. Preparations were made in York for the defense against this Methuselah, the Einherjar. And Nicholas extended his senses well beyond what anyone mortal could ever hope to achieve, scanning hundreds of square miles of land to the north, when he spotted a small band of strange foreigners traveling at night, and was perhaps spotted by one of them. And in our last scene, Robert awoke earlier in the night than he normally does to find his new Chester Manor painted with blood, his staff slain, and his child, having betrayed him, setting the manor ablaze before departing, leaving Robert trapped inside without any evidence of what has happened to Heather Hurley or to Guy de Free. As we return to this scene, Robert, you see that the fires are growing close. The smoke is filling the manor. It's getting hard to see. It's very dark except for the flames. The hallway you came back from is open for now, but it doesn't go many places. You are familiar enough with this manor to know there is an exit to the back that you probably could make if you go quickly. It reaches a kind of small garden area that would at least have access to the outside. What do we see with Robert, and what does he do?
Well, Robert is fleeing the fire, though he is concerned about his two ghouls, and he'll listen for any signs of any human activity as he's making his way to the back door.
Okay, give me a perception, alertness. I'm going to make it difficulty 8, given that you're distracted. There's the sound of the fire roaring around you, the smoke. Your senses overall are overwhelmed. Trying to pick out the small sounds of life may be difficult. 4 successes. Okay. You are coming down the back hallway. You're passing by more servants' quarters. You pass by more pools of blood. You find a body half heaped into the hallway. And as you're passing, you hear the sounds of movement. The sound is unclear at first, but it is coming from one of these rooms. One of the guest rooms. It doesn't sound like a voice, but it does sound like someone struggling for something.
Robert's going to slam open the door and see who's inside.
You open the door, and with some of the light from the flame reflecting off the walls, there is enough light coming into this room that you can see the form of Heather Hurley, your ghoul. She is laying in bed, and you can see that she's grasping at herself, and a closer inspection sees that she's bleeding horribly. She's been stabbed multiple times in the neck, in the chest, and in her protuberant abdomen. She's struggling to say anything, but you can see the fear in her eyes. Please. Blood is pooling at her mouth. She can barely speak.
How far gone are these wounds? Would the blood do anything to help her?
Do you have any medicine or hearth wisdom?
No.
You don't know. It looks bad.
Well, he'll carry her out towards the back door, and he's willing to try and give blood to save her. He's not going to push it if she dies, though.
Okay. It's awkward. She's a whole person, and she weighs a bit more with this belly she's grown over time. She's very much almost due. What is your strength at?
It's at 3.
Okay. I would say with 4 strength, you could do this. It would still be awkward, but without at least 4 strength, it's going to add some difficulty modifiers to it.
Well, why not? He'll pump a bit of blood into his strength.
Okay.
At 4 to make the burden of carrying her easier.
Alright, you infuse your undead body with more strength and pick her up. You still have to be slow. As you pick her up, you can see that a lot of blood has pooled into the bed. You can hear her wince in pain as you carry her. And a sudden brush, a breath of fire opens up closer, reminding you of the growing threat. Give me a self-control. No, it's going to be courage for Rotrek. The difficulty here will be 7. You are trapped in a burning building, and your beast wants nothing more to flee. One success. You start to move into the hallway, closer to the fire, even as your beast pulls you closer to the hallway wall. You're holding it together, but it's touch and go. You don't have very far to go to get out. You just need to make it maybe 60 more feet fairly quickly before the fire closes off that exit. And the fire is just about to reach the door you need to get to. So give me a Dexterity Athletics, difficulty 6.
Can Robert activate celerity for this?
To move at multiples of your speed?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can do that.
All right. 1 blood point for that, and 6 athletics.
Yep. All right, 2 successes. That's more than enough. You go at a blinding speed down the hall, and in just a moment you've cleared the distance, and the fire has just reached the door as you're making it out. You only got 1 success on that courage roll. I'm going to need 1 more now that you're right here, right at the fire. You're still holding on to Heather, so I'll take another courage roll, still difficulty 7.
That's an actual botch.
That is a botch. You're moving at so fast, Robert. You're moving at such a fast speed that your foot almost steps into the flame as it's getting to the door. It surprises you. It surprises your beast so much that you lose control of yourself and Heather. Heather falls out of your arms onto the floor as you go taking off out the door. And you will spend more blood to increase your strength, 2 more points, as your beast carries your body, climbing the 10-foot stone wall enclosing the small garden space. Your fangs are extended as the beast is in control right now, and the beast wants to flee. And it is doing everything it can to get away as far as it can. With that much strength and speed, you're able to make your way over the wall. There are some people starting to gather as the fire is large enough now that it's drawing attention. There's a few people who try to stop you, asking if everything is okay, and you push them aside so forcefully that they go flying back and knock into several other people. And all of this happens in just a couple moments as you are moving at incredible speed. Eventually, you're not sure how long, but you will regain control elsewhere in the city. You don't really know where you are. Some alleyway in Chester. You're crouched down beneath some rubbish. Your clothes have gotten dirty from skulking about. You're on all fours right now when you realize that you have control again, hiding in the shadow, facing in the direction that you came. Maybe it's been a few minutes, maybe it's been an hour. But you have control again.
Well, Robert will begin making his way back to the scene, judging the night sky, seeing if he can figure out perhaps how much time has passed, if at all.
Alright, you don't have any time sense merit, but I will give you a chance at wit survival, standard difficulty. At least get a basic idea. Alright, 3 successes. So, moving carefully through the streets, you realize where you are, you get your bearings, finding your way back, and a glow in the street tells you the fire is still going. It can't have been that long. Although it's bigger than you remember. It seems to have caught half of this house, at least, from the outside. Who knows how much on the inside. There's several lines of people moving buckets of water back and forth. People trying to throw dirt, throw whatever they can to stop the spread of the fire. Fires in these kind of cities can do horrendous damage and spread quickly. It seems like they're mostly getting it under control, but no one's able to put it out. You think maybe half an hour, less than an hour, but long enough for this fire to have engulfed much of the house.
Well, Robert is going to look around, see if he can spot Albert anywhere. Maybe even try to see if he can sense any supernatural near him.
Alright, are you using any Auspex abilities in particular, or just heightened senses?
Just heightened senses.
Okay. Give me a perception, alertness, standard difficulty. Okay, 2 successes. You do catch sight of one person who seems to be giving the fire a good berth of space, but is watching it with much interest, cloaked, away from the other crowds watching, a good distance away from the other crowds, but watching nonetheless. You've seen this person before, this young woman. You think her name is Kirsten. She is a Canite here in Chester.
Robert will silently approach her.
When she sees you approach, she does a double take. She looks at you cautiously. Looking back to the fire, she speaks to you sidelong. Are you alright? That fire. It was no accident, was it?
No, and no. Have you been here long?
I've been watching for some time. I thought perhaps you'd perished.
Did you see anyone fleeing from the manor?
No, I'm afraid not. Were you looking for someone?
The one who did this, yes.
You saw him? You know who it was?
I think so.
I apologise, my lord. Kirsten Campbell. We never officially met.
Of course, I am Robert DeVere.
Of course, everyone knows who you are.
I'd love to stay and chat pleasantries, but I must be off. Perhaps another time.
I do think I saw your man. Your, ranger.
Truly.
Aye.
Where?
He was down a few streets that way. She points further down. He was, with that young one. Your child, I think it was. It was, hours ago.
Thank you for this information.
Good fortune to you, Lord of Vere.
Robert will head in the direction she mentioned and begin a search from there.
She nods to you and watches you go. You depart away from the burning building, your burning home, and you cross a few of these stony intersections as there are still many people trying to help contain the fire. Everyone's running in the opposite direction you are. And you do make it to one inn that seems to stand out to you, mostly because of who you see step out of it. You see the double wooden doors are open, light coming out as you see that indeed your ghoul guide to free steps out, holding at his head, stumbling a bit as he steps out into the night.
Robert will not approach him yet. He's going to watch very cautiously right now. What direction is he headed?
He seems to not have all of his bearings. He continues to step further into the street, stops and steadies himself, and then looks around. He blinks a few times, looks like he's either very sleepy or something else is wrong with him. And he catches himself from falling over as he starts to make his way back in the direction of the manor house. And a stagger stepping at a quick pace.
He'll deal with that later. He needs to find Albert. He's going to try and see if he can sense Albert within this establishment right now.
Alright, how do you want to sense Albert?
I'll start with perhaps an awareness check, and if that doesn't work, Perhaps he'll smell for anyone who smells of oil. Something that has a very strong odor that would be on Albert, as this is very recent.
Alright, so we'll start with awareness, just general sense of anything supernatural or occult in the area. Give me a perception awareness, standard difficulty. Okay, 2 successes. You don't immediately tell that there's anything abnormal or supernatural in this area, in the inn, or anywhere around you. You want to check for the smell of oil, perhaps?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then that will be another perception alertness. Given the many scents on the street and the smoke further obfuscating things, smell of the inn, the many things you have to contend with, give me a difficulty 8. Four successes. With your heightened acuity, you're able to parse and set aside certain scents from others. You go through many: ale, mead, wine, loaves of bread, cheese, the odor of bodies, sweat, the decay, and just faintly, oil. You do smell it from within. Not candle wax, not lantern, but perhaps some kind of oil from within.
Robert is definitely following this trail.
Alright. Tracking the scent, you go in and you're able to find it was most concentrated right around the end of a bar booth. You can see that a few mugs of ale look empty. No one's sitting here now, but this is kind of where the scent is strongest, and that's kind of where it ends. The barkeep is still tending to some patrons inside who seem not to care about whatever is going on a few streets down. It's drawn some attention, but many patrons have remained inside.
Robert is going to ask the barkeep nicely, after commanding his attention with presence, and ask where the man that was sitting there went.
There were a couple blokes sitting there. Were there for about an hour or so. This was a couple hours back. He's kind of saying this as he's looking out the open doors. One of them left a while ago. Left his friend here, drunk off his face. He just woke up and staggered off.
And absolutely, the scent ends here, doesn't go any further anywhere else.
Doesn't go anywhere else. I mean, it goes out into the streets where it dissipates into the many more smells out there. The wind that's caught it and made it dilute.
Well, this guy's no longer going to be of help to him. He'll head out back into the streets. He'll walk in a direction opposite of the burning. Along the street, assuming there's only 2 ways. Maybe there's more.
Yeah, there's kind of a long drag that goes through Chester. You've been going down it away from your house, and you passed, and you made it to this this inn, this tavern, you want to go further away?
Yeah, he's going to go further away. He's going to assume that, Albert didn't go back towards his place, and he's going to, all the while, try to track him down.
Alright, if you keep going in this direction, after about half a mile, you'll reach the city gate. That's probably the fastest way out of the city, if that's what you were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You reach the city gate, and it's the middle of the night. There are still guards. The gates are closed. There are a couple of men patrolling around. There's stables nearby. A number of horses. It's all very quiet over here. Most of the attention has gone to further in the city.
Figuring the guards may have been watching the stables, he'll ask if a young man departed on a horse recently.
There was one bloke. He seemed like in quite a hurry. Strange thing about him. He wanted to leave. Insisted the gates stay closed for the night. But he wouldn't have any of it. I hadn't meant to open the gate. It was a fairly convincing fellow. Left me with an odd feeling. Bet he's gone now. Better not to have those type in here anyway.
Well, Robert is going to ask the same to leave the city at this moment. And of course, he will apply his powers if the guard is resistant.
Alright, he'll put up a brief challenge about wanting to try and keep these gates closed as much as possible at night, but I'll spare you the roll, as I'm sure you would defeat it very easily. He gives in quite quickly to your powers, and the portcullis is raised, the wooden doors are opened up again, and you are allowed to leave. You're leaving on foot?
Yeah, he doesn't have time to procure a horse right now.
Okay. So you go out on foot. Eventually you can hear the clanking iron chains as the portcullis closes behind you, and the sound of the creaking wood as that closes as well.
What are the precious tracks?
You are not much of a tracker, and you don't have a lot going for you, but you can give me a... wits, survival, difficulty 8. There are many tracks here, and even if you could see them very easily with your senses, it's about making sense of what does it mean, what are you looking at. 2 successes. Alright, despite the challenge, you make use some of the ambient light. You're not entirely sure, but there are some more recent hoof prints, at least in the initial path leading out of the city. It's a bit muddier on the stone here as it's kind of caked up, and some of those look more fresh. It heads in an eastern direction.
Eastern?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so probably safe to assume he's headed back to Ragna. Well, why not? It was used against him. He'll use summon. He's going to go away from the gate so that he can confront Albert in private, but he's going to attempt to call him with summon, and after he does that, he'll then start heading in the direction of the tracks.
Alright, so I'll have you spend a blood point. Then you will be at Charisma Subterfuge. You've used presence on him successfully in the past. Your difficulty will be 4. That is 4 successes. You expect him to come to you with some haste, unless something has happened to him or otherwise makes it more difficult.
He's going to continue along the trail. He's not going to let him escape. Once he gets out of sight of people, he is going to move at full rate.
Okay. So you leave the walls of Chester into the night, following the road out into the countryside. You're traveling at great speed for a person. You don't find anyone else. You get further and further away from the stone walls. The countryside blurs past you, the trees and the small brooks, the plains and rolling hills. You eventually come to a great clearing. It's really nothing more out here than low-lying shrubs, small bushes. There are not many trees in the area you finally reach when you see a rider come into view. After almost about a minute, they ride up and you can see your child is back to you. And his sword is drawn.
Robert will respond in kind, although maybe he didn't grab a sword. He's fleeing the burning. I don't know.
I will say you got woken up basically in your casual sleeping wear. You might have gotten a few looks out in the street, but most people were focused on other things. I will say that you probably did not grab a sword. I never heard you talk about grabbing a sword.
Fair enough. Robert will prepare to, assuming he's been spotted already, he's definitely going to just prepare to enter combat.
Alright, roll initiative. Alright, Albert will have the first move. As you have successfully summoned him. But there's nothing about summon that compels loyalty or love or service. And he is now coming as you desired with haste, rushing at you, sword drawn. And he is going to try and strike at you.
If there's nothing that can impede the progress of the horse, Robert will put his efforts into see, would it be a split action if you use a power on top of dodging?
What do you want to use?
Dread gaze on the horse.
I would say celerity actions only give you multiple physical actions. You can't do multiple mental disciplines or anything, and that really requires concentration. So I would say you either have to commit to the dread gaze, or you can do multiple physical actions, but I would not say you could do both. Also, he has to resolve his attack first. So that might change your plan.
Well, okay, yeah, he'll...
Unless you're going full defensive.
Well, going full defensive, he'll still be on the horse and still have an advantage, so he's going to put his all into dodging this first blow, and he's going to use celerity for an extra action, which will be to maybe he'll try to tackle Albert off the horse.
Alright, so you want to do 2 actions, dodge and then tackle?
Yeah, or just at least grapple him. Maybe tackle him would be too difficult to do, but yeah.
Okay. Well, first let's see how he does with the attack and how you do with defense. Attack by cavalry on someone on the ground does give an advantage.
Let's also spend a blood point on dexterity.
Alright, just remember you're at -1 dice for your dodge since you're doing multiple actions.
Okay. Well, that's more dodge than I have, so but let's see what happens. Actually, wait, no.
Wow, you rolled 3 1s in that roll. That is a botch. I'm going to say that your attempt at being so fast to dodge and then tackle actually kind of ruined the ladder. And so you are going to be moving into an awkward position where you're not going to get that tackle off. But I will have you roll soak. Alright, after soak for lethal. Your attempt at moving quickly to get out of the way actually moves into his blade as he's cutting. And he cuts well through you as he rides past. Cutting right through your torso. Almost to the spine from front to back.
Ouch.
And he will yell at you as he kind of rounds about, finishing the strike and then bringing the horse around again. You made me a slave, Robert, but now I'm free. Ragnar has shown me that, and you will die for your slavery. You and all of yours.
You'll have to make that reality first. So this completely ruins Robert's extra action, or does he still have an extra action of celerity?
With the botch, I'm going to say you do not get your extra action off.
Okay. All right. More blood into dexterity. And he's going to use... hold on. Let me bring up all my powers because I don't have them in front of me right now.
Okay.
Feels... Alright, I'm going to use Majesty this time.
Okay. So I will cost you a willpower point.
Actually, he still has the attack on me, doesn't he?
He will get one more... That's true. It is going to be his turn. So he's going to get one more move, and then you will be up again.
Fuck.
So he is rounding back to slash at you again. As you're in little more than like a night cloak. You were just sleeping when all of this occurred. You rushed out.
Alright, I guess I don't have to spend blood on Majesty. I'm going to pump rest of my blood into... Yeah, I don't think Majesty would be a good choice, because if I take another hit, I'm down. So I'll put the rest of my blood into... or one more blood point into Dexterity. And ready another celerity action, as well as prep for dodging a full dodge into this swing.
So you going for a split action again?
Celerity action at the end of his turn. But I guess if that is a split action, then yeah. But
yeah, the way it works in Dark Ages Celerity, you get your two actions. It'll be at the same difficulty. You're not taking any difficulty hits because you have Celerity and you're activating it. The only thing that happens is you will lose one die on your first roll, and on your second action you'll lose 2 die, and so on and so forth. But they happen like one after another.
Alright.
But again, he got initiative, so he has to get his attack off. Or try to, at least. And so as you finish what you're saying and begin to prepare yourself for his next onslaught, he begins riding towards you. And he yells out as he raises his sword up. You made a sacrifice out of me, and now I will sacrifice you!
Spending a willpower to ignore wounds.
Alright, he slashes down. He will connect. So another soak roll.
I'm dodging, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, go for your dodge.
Okay.
You're at 1 minus... Actually, how many wounds do you have?
-2, I'm at wounded.
Okay, so then you're at -3 because you're doing celerity.
Yeah. But I did spend a willpower to get rid of the wound penalty.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, then forget that. It's just -1 then.
Yeah. That's why I was a little confused there. I'm like, huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
my bad.
Dodging.
Alright, then this will connect. So now I'll take a soak from you. This will be at full dice. Your celerity doesn't impact this.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, you soaked 1. He did 4. So that's a net of 3. What are you at now?
That is torpid.
Is it?
Yep.
Let's see here. Yeah, 1 from the sword. I'm gonna make sure I'm not missing anything here before I put you in torpor. I can't think of anything.
No, it's legit torpid. He lost.
Alright. So as he finishes this battle cry, and he cuts down at you again, you attempt to dodge, going for another speedy movement. But on horseback, with the blood you've given him, he is a very agile warrior. And he cuts through you, cutting open your neck and eviscerating enough of your body that you fall unconscious from all the trauma to your body, going into darkness, at least for now. The scene will fade at the end of this. We will transition away from this, back to York. So we return to Elenid, Nicholas, and Talicia. Preparations are ongoing. It sounds as though Elenid may have a conclusive plan for how to deploy the captains of the Covenant and their allotted forces. And I believe Nicholas meant to talk to Elenid, or did talk to Elenid about what he saw?
Meant to, he has not yet.
Okay. Then I'm going to say it's going to be one of the times that Talicia is popping into Elenid's study while she's finishing up plans. When Nicholas, you enter the study and see that right where you left her, Elenid's hunched over maps, moving battalions around, little pieces on this large table. And Talicia, you're nearby when you see that Nicholas has returned.
Master Ridley, have you come to aid in the preparations?
I have, and in a more tangible way than you thought. Nicholas will step over to the maps that Elenid is working on, scanning them for Hadrian's Wall.
It is about roughly 100 miles north of you. It's not far from Durham, where you think you saw this group, when you look at this map and try to superimpose your memory upon it.
Nicholas will lay a finger on the map. There. That is where they are now.
How many?
9 to 12. Led by a very unhappy-looking Cainite. I think he noticed me.
Can you give the descriptions of them?
He can and will do so in great detail. Starting with their leader and then working his way back to those he actually did look at.
They all seem to have foreigner appearance, and some of them with pagan symbolism in tattoos or their hairstyles. They're certainly not Anglo-Saxon or even Norman. They, almost to a T, walk barefoot. You didn't see any weapons on them. They're clad very lightly. Although, strangely enough, Nicholas, I will say that with your very acute senses, you do think you saw a strangely ostentatious, I shouldn't say ostentatious, but definitely out of place silver chalice on the leader, in kind of strapped to the back of his belt.
No detail is too small. He will reveal that as well.
I admittedly know very little of their customs. I will have to give this information to someone who knows more.
Would this fall into to Talicia's warehouse, given her background? You know, having grown up in Scandinavia.
Yes, this would be much more in the wheelhouse of Hearth wisdom, or maybe a history of some kind, although it is possible you heard about this through more occult history. It is less known. So I will let you make an intelligence occult, although the difficulty for this will be fairly high. It's kind of obscure. The difficulty will be 9.
Oof. specialty in canine lore for a cult. Would that apply?
Yes, that would.
Four successes total.
Wow. All right, give me one moment.
I'm kind of impressed too.
So I'm just double checking something. Since you got 4 successes, I should give you real information. Alright, with 4 successes, you remember something of interest when you were studying objects of historical significance amidst Canaanites, and especially of those in northern and western Europe. There was a rumored object, a cup of some kind, supposedly somewhere in Scandinavia, which could turn ale into blood, a kind of vampiric mead. It's so incredible and unbelievable that most simply ignored the rumor. No one has really sought it out as to how outlandish the idea is that some cup could simply produce vitae to feed off of that kind would not be needed. And yet no one has ever truly laid eyes on this goblet or chalice or horn or whatever form it's taken. No one really knows what it was supposed to be, or if it's changed form, but it was supposedly owned by a very powerful Canaanite of either Scandinavian or Norwegian descent, and this does come to mind when you think of what is described to you in the context.
4 successes not quite good enough to get an ID.
It has been known by the name of Bloodhorn.
I meant of the original owner.
According to the outlandish rumors, it was owned by Odin the All-High.
Just so I know, would Talicia know that Odin is actually a Canaanite, or no?
Writing off of your 4 successes, I would say you know by a few reports there was a Canaanite by the name of Odin, a Methuselah gangrel from Scandinavia, and he was much more active in the 4th through 7th centuries, but after that no one really knows what happened to him.
It can't be. No. If what you speak of is true, there is at least the possibility that we should simply leave Ragna to her own devices.
Unfortunately, that's not something I am capable of doing.
The chalice. It is known as the Bloodhorn. Your description is quite astute, though I am recalling folklore and word of mouth. It's hard to say for certain, but this object is capable of transmuting simple ale into vitae that we might drink and gain sustenance from.
That. If that is indeed what it is, that would be quite the relic.
That is not the troubling part. The Cainite who crafted it who held it in his possession last, to my knowledge, was known, colloquially I'm sure, as Odin.
Question. In her travels with the former Gauntlet members in the past, has the name of Odin, at least as a god, come up with Wulfric was around? I know typically weapons before battle are marked with the sign of Tyr instead.
I would say you have at least a passing familiarity with the name Odin and it being a god of great significance to the Danes and Norwegians.
So he names himself after a god.
Oh, quite the opposite, I expect. You see, he would have inspired the myth. This would be a Methuselah of nearly 1,000 years age.
Oh, is that all?
Possibly a great deal more. He would not have gone to slumber without some of his children nearby. I'm certain of it.
That is a problem.
Indeed, millennia-old Methuselah alone would be a problem. A dozen of them. I am sorry to say, any oath you might have spoken. How much does it outweigh your own life?
She doesn't say anything in response to that, instead makes for the door.
Nicholas follows. He knows where she's going.
Talisi is right behind her. Though, if he is Gangrel, then he will have some sense of honor. Perhaps he will spare those who do not impede his progress, or if Ragna is innocent of whatever charge he means to put her to justice for, he will discover this and move on to right the wrong of his resurrection.
This is all vague conjecture. You can't purport to know his mind.
No, but I can extrapolate what I know of others of his ilk, and I am not unfamiliar with the ways of the Norse.
Helena just continues. Is she able to get a meeting with, or is she too busy?
You cut out. Meeting with who?
Ragna.
If you seek one out, you probably will get one within a day if it's coming from you.
Can she find Jasper?
That's easier to do if you're looking for, Jesper of Jomsburg. Well, are you leaving to go find him right now?
Yes.
All right. It takes some looking, but eventually you leave the Great Hall, and once you step down to the gateway of the castle entrance, you see him talking with several knights. He stops and turns to you when he hears you approach. Elined, how fare you?
I am fine, however, some new information has come to light. Can we speak somewhere?
Yes. Just go inside. I am done here. And he eyes the knights who depart. Are Nicholas or Telesia following after?
Unless stopped.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So all four of you eventually end up in... We'll say you return back to the study, since that's simplest. The door closes behind you. And Jesper kind of folds his arms over his chain vestments. What is this new information you have?
Well, the good news is the location of the approaching forces has been found out by none other than Nicholas here.
The bad news is that the information he provided has also helped to identify the leader of the approaching force.
Or whom she believes is the leader based on the item he carries.
His eyebrows furrow, scrutinizing the group of you. What did you see?
Hell, Ned will let Nicholas answer that since he's the one that saw it.
There were at least 9 of them. They looked like barbarians from the look, mostly barefoot. But moving with great speed considering the terrain and on foot.
Did you see any symbols or banners?
I can't remember, did I?
You saw various tattoos of which you don't know offhand, but possibly could make an academics roll if you wanted to.
I will do so.
Okay.
Intelligence?
Yeah, intelligence academics. Difficulty is going to be 8. It's a bit obscure. It's not something you study in particular.
Nope.
Any specialties there?
In intelligence, it is resourceful. I don't think that applies.
Probably not in this case. At least you got 3 successes on that same roll. Given the description that Nicholas provides, it does sound like something else you read about, very consistent with Norse mythology, and give me 1 second here, let me give you a better description. What you saw were 3 triangles interlocked within it itself in a circle of looked like rings within rings. And that to you was consistent with a mythological symbol for the Einherjar, which were a group, from what you read, unrelated to vampiric existence entirely, actually.
The symbols he describes were of the Einherjar. As I recall, they are meters of justice, foot soldiers of the Allfather.
Who, if Telesia is to be believed, might actually have been a Cainite.
I will say one other thing, since you got 3 successes, and because of Nicholas's extreme detail, one symbol on the leader was different than the others. It was a kind of inverted hammer with a short handle, which you think was something called Mjolnir. And only the leader had this.
The lead Cainite, bore the symbol of Mjolnir, which, if we are quite lucky, means that it is simply Thor.
Jesper's eyes go wide as he looks to the ground in thought. I know of this Cainite. Mjolnir. He went by. Not Thor, but of enough legend that I would not expect victory in single combat against him.
I think it is time to dispense with formalities. If your sire is guilty of whatever it is they believe her to be guilty of, perhaps it is time for us to know. If she is innocent, then we can simply parley and they can go on about their own lives and trouble us no longer.
And then we'll look over at Telesia. What she just said is not a reason we called you in here. That is her talking of her own accord.
That is good to hear, because I have no intention of leaving my sire's side, and if what you describe is true, it would not matter, as the Einherjar and the Volknut symbol are the 3 triangles. That is not a symbol that comes out, unless there is a finality to it. They would not stop seeking Ragnar, even if we left.
No, But if she is innocent, then it is simply misunderstanding. Perhaps propaganda sprinkled in the ear of an elder by a conspirator who wished to see her downfall.
He actually smirks briefly, despite the sober context of the discussion. If you wish to parley with them when they arrive, you are free to, for I do not intend to question what my sire tells me, or that of my superiors.
You will recall that when asked, she did not answer when Robert addressed it in the throne room.
His eyes narrow at you.
I simply mean to say that we have been told nothing, one way or the other.
Let me tell you something, Snake. I am here to fight for my sire. If you are more interested in rumor, perhaps there is a different city for you.
I prefer not to deal in rumor if it can be avoided. Fact is often more useful.
I am not one who trucks in politics and the snake words of your kind, so I will put this very bluntly for you. I am in charge of the city as far as its security. I am the sheriff for all intents and purposes, and if I do not feel that you are good presence here for the security of the city, I will see that you are not here when the defense begins.
That is your right as sheriff, though I wonder, would you deprive the field marshal of the Covenant, of her advisors?
If I think that advisor is nothing more than another serpent here to spread poison and weakness and doubt, yes, I would deprive her of that.
As you say, you are not one with a head for politics, though I would caution you against this, as it would diminish your sire's position with the other Covenant princes.
And when my sire tells me that I have done poorly as sheriff, that is when I will change my opinion of how I deal with snakes. I will be watching you, Talicia. The rest of you I bid a good evening. And he nods to Nicholas and Elenid, meaning to turn away and leave.
She will nod in return, and will not stop him.
The door closes behind him, leaving the three of you inside.
Well, you made an impression.
No. I believe that Anath Nemtet made an impression, and he is simply reacting to that hearsay.
bit of this, a bit of that. Your words certainly didn't help.
Often, the truth is very difficult to bear when it contradicts one's beliefs.
Truth is simply a matter of perception.
I disagree. The truth is immutable. Our understanding of it, not as much.
On this I will continue to differ. But then again, I do have the benefit of insight you don't possess.
You have the benefit of preternatural perceptions that I do not possess. That is not the same as insight.
As you will, he says.
Though, in deference to the situation, if you would have me dismissed from the city, I will procure travel arrangements for myself and depart. Elsewise, I will consider the matter dismissed.
Nicholas says nothing further on the matter, keeping his own counsel.
She was addressing Ellen, of course. Sorry.
No, I knew that, but he's not interjecting.
You should keep things, well, should keep your words from spilling out into internal conflict. That's the last thing we need during issues like
That is fair enough, but if we are set to die defending an innocent woman, that would be one thing. If we are set to die to defend a diabolist, well, I would like to know.
if you wish to flee and save your own skin, then do so.
I serve at your pleasure, Elnid. As I said, if it is your wish for me to quit the city, I will do so. Otherwise, I consider it settled.
She heads to leave.
All right, Elenid leaves the room. What are Elenid's plans next?
Do a bit of training and return to the room for more plans after people have cleared out.
All right, and Nicholas?
Nicholas intends to consider his own role in the coming conflict. That is to say, he's going back to his quarters to think.
And where does that leave Telesia?
I think she will see about finding a soldier with whom she can also train. See about getting some of the dust off her sword arm. It's been a while.
Easy enough to do in the castle. Many a soldier are training or on patrol or otherwise looking to keep themselves occupied, as it seems that many of them do not know precisely what to expect. Perhaps Lancasters, perhaps Scottish forces. They know they're supposed to be ready for something, but no one seems to have told them what. But you are able to find someone whom you can spar with. It's a bit strange finding a petite woman who wants to train. But then Elenid kind of broke the ice there, and so it's not entirely unheard of. And so each of you find a way to occupy your time for the remainder of the evening. I think we will take a little bit of an early break here, as the next part will probably take quite a bit. Sound good?
Elder arrives, everyone does.
You don't know that. But we'll be back in 15. Alright. So we return to York. It's become around late October, after all the events in York and abroad. Over time, the air has continued to grow more cold, less damp, becoming a dry and biting chill. It freezes the kine into huddled forms, moving here and there to warmer places, cloaks wrapped tightly about them. This winter's colder than most. Hoods are raised and heads lowered. And it's on one of these colder nights at the end of October that there's a slow but growing energy throughout the city. Activity, murmurs, news spreading of something beyond the walls, something catching people's attention. It reaches each of your ears that at the edge of the territory of York proper, a number of figures have become visible, cresting a hill to the north, almost a mile out. It is mostly grass and low shrubs between here and there. Difficult to determine how many or who, but the sight is apparently strange enough to have drawn some attention. I will say that the three of you find each other in the keep of York Castle, just in front of the Great Hall. We will say Elenid is last to arrive, and news has just broken of these strange individuals, and perhaps the sighting of strange colored lights in the distance.
So we are all there, correct?
Yes, you're all together. You're just in front of the Great Hall.
Nicholas, can you take a closer look?
We both know what I'll see. You can't hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And I nearly forgot. Elenid, you wanted a meeting with Ragna before this. What was your meeting about?
This was more her relaying the information that they were able to.
Okay.
Keeping her in the loop. Seeing if she has any advice for dealing with people like that.
Tactically, no, you're not given any advice on how to deal with this group, although it doesn't seem like the news of the Einherjar being confirmed made her change her plans or decide to leave. She seemed resolute, or perhaps resigned, to standing and fighting. Tactically, strategically, does not change anything from her standpoint.
All right.
As the three of you are grouped there, Captain Herbert Messier, the Bristol captain, comes running up the stone steps to greet you, his cloak billowing behind. Ah, my lady. The forces are aligned, as you outlined.
Very good.
Do you have any other instructions at this time?
None that would come with that wouldn't have already come with the knowledge of doing battle with Ken.
He nods. The other captains are at their posts. I'll return to the castle wall.
She nods. As she will make her way to the town itself, since those are the forces she's supposed to.
Alright, what is Nicholas doing?
Nicholas, I suppose, is going to follow Elenid to the town. In case he's needed.
Alright. And Talicia.
Talicia would probably take up position inside the castle walls, rather than where she's going to be of zero use. She's definitely going to direct people to fill gaps where possible. But mostly she's trying to get behind as many men as she possibly can, because she no fighter.
Alright, so you follow Captain Messier back up to the battlements of the castle walls, the kind of inner curtain wall protecting the keep. And he looks out onto the city, which is enclosed by the outer wall. And that is where Elenid goes. And you pass by the battalions of troops that have been readied and roused. They're no longer on patrol. They're all in position. And following up a set of wooden staircase, you reach the height of these walls, which are about 50 feet high, maybe 9 feet wide. They're fairly stout. And you look out, and the two of you can also tell that there is some presence out there, a dotting of red light, kind of lining this hill in the distance. You can also see the soldiers arrayed outside the walls in formation.
Talisi will mention offhandedly to the captain, "Has a runner been sent to notify the Lady Ragna?"
The captain nods, looking out beyond the city, speaking sidelong to you. She is well aware. She is in the throne room.
Bold of her, but what more could one expect?
It would not do for her men for her to be hiding or leaving.
Let us hope that her faith in Elenid is well founded. Have the archers... Well, that's right. The archers inside the castle weren't going to be firing flaming arrows into the city. That'd be bad.
No, but Elenid, you would notice that it seems some preparations were made. There are some braziers prepared for stockpiles and quivers of arrows to be lit all along the walls of York. The archers, they don't have arrows knocked yet or anything, but they seem to be standing ready. What's going through Elenid's mind at this time?
She's doing her best to keep herself as controlled as possible. But she is keeping a keen eye out. She does not know the full capabilities of these individuals outside of them being very old and being gang.
And as Nicholas stands beside her looking out to this line of red light, what does he think of?
He's quite certain he's going to die today. And so he waits to see how it will happen.
And lastly, what private thoughts do Talicia, or does Talicia, consider?
She's mostly just watching the lights. She's not having a lot of errant thoughts at the moment. Hoping that the riders run it down, and they don't really have to worry about it.
Indeed, it is a small showing, if that is what you saw. Barely a handful of men at this distance, you have to squint to see it. While you're all considering thoughts or looking out, a voice rings out from the distance, from the hill and the lights, booming so loud it infiltrates the city for all to hear. "Ik hef en fundio pig, Bragen. Ragna, Vuknotin dreger mega ingo. Egmund takabruzer edun pino.
Telesia speaks Norse. What did he say?
He says, which only you know, I have found you, Ragnar. The Volknot draws me here, and soon I will take Canute from your veins. The voice bellows again, but this time in Old French, which all of you do understand. I am Mjolnir, child of Odin the All-High, and I will blood Igor Ragnar Bjorn's daughter this night, and all those who stand against me will see the halls of Valhalla, and all others who do not flee in this hour will meet the goddess Hel. You have 1 hour to choose your fate, and then I will spare none. And the lights along the hill seem to fade away. Small as they were, they're gone now. There's a low and quiet murmur that grows amongst some of the men. What are Talisia's plans? Does she mean to remain?
No, there's not very many places for her to run to, though. Once they get ready to breach the wall, she's definitely going to make for the throne room. It's definitely checking her escape routes.
And Nicholas, you hear this call, this allowance to flee for the next hour. What is his response?
He'll ask Helena, do you intend to flee?
I have no intentions on running.
If I stay, if we both stay, we'll die here tonight.
If you wish to leave, then do so.
He shakes his head, looking resolved. I will stay.
If things go badly, do your best to get out of here. That way word can reach the other cities.
So be it.
All right.
I will be nearby.
She doesn't say anything, she just continues staring into the distance.
All right, you all remain for the next hour.
Indeed.
All right. One moment while I set some things up. An hour passes. None of the captains, none of you leave. You don't see Jesper or Mr. Ethan Sharp leave. You don't see Ragna. There is a murmur amongst the men, but it seems not to be enough to make them flee. The booming voice certainly shook some people, although the absence of an army seems to confuse many of them. But an hour comes and goes, and no one leaves. And seeing that no one else is leaving seems to instill some confidence in the soldiers. Now I will move us to the map. We'll look. Scrolling down at the forces of York. So Elenid, you're not in command of the forces beyond the walls, but you can see them. And so you will see how things turn out, at least for this group. Alright, brief note here. We lost a few minutes of audio. The battle commences as Captain Johannes Scannell leads the cavalry outside the city against apparently just 2 of these Einherjar gangrel. The battle results in chaos as the gangrel combatants move at blinding speed, tearing apart the cavalry forces beyond the walls. And before even half an hour of battle has passed, about half of Captain's cavalry are killed or scattered. And the audio picks up on Elenid seeing one of the gangrel combatants stop to feed on the dying. This warrior seems to be hunched over and feeding. It looks like half of your troops have been wiped out in the outside. You're not sure where the captain is. But so far, this is going poorly for them.
Nicholas can't hope to take this warrior. He's not a warrior himself. He will melt into the shadows, watching.
Elenid will make towards the other city troops and say to the archers, "Ready your arrows at any sign of the enemy. Fire."
I will take a wits alertness from both of you, difficulty 8.
Does my specialty apply?
Which specialty is it?
Cool-headed.
Yes. Alright, 1 success from Nicholas.
Difficulty
8.
Okay.
And 1 from you. Alright, both of you.
Special.
You didn't roll any 10s.
Right, I didn't. Darn.
So 1 success from both of you. You're watching this battle unfold, and it almost escapes your notice. Just out of the corner of your eye, or perhaps your senses detect something on your periphery. A figure climbing over the wall, not in front of you, but on the eastern side of the walls. and leaping in to attack the soldiers of your garrison, of the city. They've actually climbed the walls. As some fight occurs right now outside the walls, some of them are climbing in to fight.
She'll draw her sword and glance over there. Just fire your arrow.
Alright. So this is your group here. The second picture down. You have 2 units of archers, spearmen, peasants, and then reserve. You have ghoul knights and spearmen you can draw upon.
She's gonna call those out of reserve as soon as possible based on how poorly the outside fight.
Alright. Give me one moment while I get this adjusted. Yeah, you see it's not just one, it's 3 figures that have crawled up the wall at alarming speed and are leaping into your garrison. So you will gain an advantage because fighting in the city is closer quarters than the outside. You have an advantage there. So I will be making, or you will be making your rolls here at difficulty 5 while they fight at difficulty 6. And you want them to fight at range right now?
I want the archers to make as good use as they can of those flaming arrows before they can't use them anymore.
Alright. So I'm just looking at your group as a whole. And just as a reminder, if you click each of these, it'll show you red is their melee attack, green is their range attack, and the blue, the first number is their defense, the second number after the decimal is their maneuverability. And so right now I'm assuming you're basically taking the whole group of your garrison here and fighting as one unit. Unless you want to do something else with them.
Yes.
Yes, they're all fighting as one.
Indeed we are, because that fight outside went very, very poorly.
Okay. So then you have 5 in ranged attack. So you can roll me 5 dice, difficulty. We'll go with 5. Since you have an advantage here. You won't get that range advantage for very long as they start to get close, but...
Yeah, the melee attackers are in front of the range to create a buff.
And yeah, no, don't worry about ones canceling for these rolls. Ones will not take
I will
away.
use the damage dice instead of the standard roll.
Alright, so you'll get 4 on your attack, and I will roll for their defense. Your archers shoot as best they can. These gangrel are hard to hurt. Arrows seem to break at their skin. They seem to bounce off. It's as though they're made of stone.
How large are the shields the spearmen have?
They are a couple feet in diameter.
Are they large enough to do the maneuver where you put the shield out front and have the spears poking out while being shielded by, well, the shield?
They are. Like to make a phalanx. They are big enough for that.
Yes.
Is there something you want to try and do?
Yes, that is something I want to try to do with them.
Okay. Give me a charisma leadership roll, standard difficulty. Ones will count for that roll.
And I do have a specialty.
Alright, 3 success. So I'll add... You can add 3 dice to your defense because they are going to attack now. And it is going to be pretty heavy. You, for all intents and purposes, since you're fighting within the city, you have the advantage of fighting close quarters, so you can keep your difficulty 5 for that, for your next roll.
What's the, since the spearmen are up front, that would be 6 defense at least. What was the addition to it again?
You can add 3, and so your defense here will be, I'm just looking at it right now.
9.
3, 6.
Unless they get past the spearmen, of course.
You'll include them all. So that's 12 plus 3, so you have 15 dice of defense. I consider all of them as a battalion. Which will match well because that's what the gangrel have for attack.
Oh, I included ones. No, I didn't include ones. Ones are just red and it threw me off.
Alright, so you got 6 success on your defense. They got 9. So that's a net of 3. They will take 3 units out in this round of combat. Your warriors, really peasants and spearmen, are being overwhelmed. You can see from where you're commanding up at the city wall, now that you're closer, these gangrel fight ferociously, moving so fast. The men striking them are missing, and in that time, 3 more of their own comrades will die next to them as the gangrel's claws move at such speed, ripping out throats and cutting through men. Your spearmen and your peasants, by the end of this, are dead. I will tint them as such. Your ghoul knights have rallied to you. They're still trying to fight, but you can see that they're not doing much better. They've managed to survive and kind of fend off the attacks. The gangrel don't stay in one place. They make attacks and keep moving. The ghouls for now are surviving, but you don't know for how long they'll last.
She will send one of the ghoul riders to the castle. Send word.
He nods quickly and rides off in the opposite direction. By this point, there are screams in the city as bodies are lining the streets. Shops are being broken into as men go flying into them. You're not sure how the outside is doing at this point as you're preoccupied. Meanwhile, Talicia, you are up at the castle walls themselves, looking out into the city, and you can see the fight has actually gotten into the city. You didn't see the gates open, but they must have gotten in somehow, because you know there's fighting. You can hear the screams inside. and the flurry of men in the distance moving down streets.
She'll sidelong mention, "Ready the men. They'll be upon us and within our ranks presently."
There! What
Arrows
is
should be
that?
knocked.
Ah! A man pulled over from the wall near you, and you see, not 30 feet away, one of these Einherjar climb the wall and look around with hands outstretched, claws extended. The fangs are out. The captain beside you pulls his sword. To arms!
Talise is getting out of the way. She's going to find somewhere she can also melt into the shadows.
Okay. Alright. You are not in command of this, but the fighting will occur around you nonetheless.
She is going to do everything she can to not be in the way.
Alright, we'll see how Captain Messier performs here. I'm not sure how much of a difference it'll make, but I'm gonna give him a chance for a leadership role. Got 2 on the leadership role. I'll give him 2 to defending or commanding the defense. He's going to get 5 successes on attacking the Gangrel onslaught at Castle York. They will get a chance to defend. They're rolling quite well. It will be evenly matched. They will not lose anyone. They will attack next. Alright, evenly matched. At least for this first 10 or 15 minutes of fighting, Talisia, so far as you can tell, Captain Messier is keeping the Gangrel back, keeping them away from the Great Hall, and so far his men are holding out. The archers fire past groups of swordsmen, keeping these men, or keeping these Gangrel into small quarters. Actually, I've been rolling at the wrong difficulty. They should be at lower difficulty because the castle is easier to defend than the open field. So let me look at that again.
I was going to say we can definitely make that adjustment on the fly.
Yeah, I'm just going to look at this because they should be doing. They're not at the same difficulty. The men defending the castle have a major advantage.
So the first roll from the castle defense was 6 successes to 5.
Okay, that's going to cost the Gangrel one of their lives.
And 7 successes on their last roll to 5.
Okay. Defenders, when they are engaged in melee, if they net more success, they will take out opponents' units, which means that's more than the Einherjar came up with. Which means they are going to repel and destroy, or at least torpor, these Einherjar. So, perhaps surprisingly, Captain Messier not just holds them back, but after maybe 15 or 20 minutes actually corners some of these gangrel into small hallways around the castle walls where the vampiric knights come out, and they're able to surround these gangrel. And fortunately, the well-trained vampire knights are a match as a group for the pair of these gangrel, which are ferocious but ultimately are defeated at the castle. The castle holds for now. You mean to remain where you are, Talisia?
For the time being, yeah. Out of curiosity, the bodies, do they any of them match the... I wouldn't imagine any of them is carrying the chalice in question.
No, these look like barbarians of the north somewhere. Like Vikings of old you've only read about.
She will, if the opportunity presents itself and they are not turning to dust instantly, she'll go ahead and take the time to stake them.
Yeah, it looks like the vampiric knights are all over that. Once they're struck down, they're staked just to be on the safe side and moved away. Right. Let me do some more rolls for the outside, which was not going great.
I'm not sure whether you're rolling... I don't know what you just rolled.
This was not for the inside, this is for the outside. The fight beyond the walls. Which no one really knows what exactly is happening out there, as everyone else is quite preoccupied. So we will return to Elenid, who is still commanding the city defense. Although things look to be a bit grim. Elenid, you still have 2 units of archers, and your ghoul knights, save one who's ridden off to send message. The 3 gangrel are making short work of your battalions here. Do you have any change of plans, or do you want to do anything else?
Are there any more fortifiable areas around here?
The only thing more fortified than this is the castle itself. It's up a hill through a large street that kind of cuts through York. What's your plan? Or what are you thinking?
She's thinking that she could very well die here.
I just meant if you had an idea you wanted to throw out.
Staying and fighting is suicide, but leaving the post will cause panic in her men. Is it possible to have the ghoul knights charge them, not stay in one location, just quickly move around to try to avoid retaliation? Keep them busy so the archers can fire.
It looks like that's what they've been trying to do. The Ghoul Knights are doing everything they can to survive. One of them rides up to you in a bit of a huff. He takes off his helmet and his hair is messy and his face covered in sweat. My lady, we are no match. We should call for a retreat. Hundreds are dying.
If we can, we should retreat to the castle, yes. Assist the forces there.
He nods and dons his helmet again. He raises his hand, yelling out to the ghouls, rallying them to him.
She will try to hitch a ride on one of the knight's horses to get to the castle.
Yeah, they're not going to
inform
leave
the archers to attempt to retreat as well, but I sincerely doubt they'll be able to get away.
One of the ghoul knights stops and kind of grabs you by the forearm, pulling you up to the horse. Has Nicholas remained obfuscated during this time? You can see it's a slaughter. Hundreds are dying.
He will pull himself from the shadows, definitely, and try to retreat back to the castle with everyone else.
Alright. You call for the retreat, and there are horns blown, signaling the retreat to the castle. One unit of archers stays behind to buy you time to cover the retreat as the other unit of archers and your ghoul knights leave. The last you see of this unit is 3 of these gangrel jumping from one of the building tops into them, taking some of them down. You hear screams, but the rest is cut off from vision as you turn a corner around a building.
Are the gangrel in the city in range of the castle archers at all?
Not yet.
Boo.
Also, I'm not sure if Talicia would know what is or is not in range for archer defense of the castle. Possibly, but... So, Elenid, you flee, and Nicholas, are you also making back to the castle, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So, the inner curtain wall portcullis is pulled up as the ghoul riders ride in, and the archers running in behind them, some of them with blood smeared on their face, some of them with soot covering their cheeks from attempts at flamed arrows. The gate is closed quickly behind them. Elenid, as you get off your horse and the men are running about, running up ladders and staircases, getting back to the fence, there are calls being made and orders being given out. You see Captain Messier, his sword bloodied. He marches over to you with a helmet in his other hand. We have taken down 2 of them. We have rider reports that the outside forces, they're all gone.
There'll be more here shortly. This is all that is left of the city forces.
There's no sign of Captain Gunnell. We believe him dead. They can be defeated. He nods, his eyes looking intense. His fangs are actually extended as he says that.
She nods as well.
And then he'll run off, starting to give more orders.
She will send her men to join the other forces, assist them, and go see what the situation is.
Alright, so you go into up at the inner curtain walls to look out into the city, or where do you want to go?
What direction does seem like the commander here was going?
It looked like he was mostly commanding from the top of the gatehouse. It has kind of one of the most commanding views.
If that's where she can get the best view of the situation, that's where she can get the best view of the situation.
Okay. And Telesia, you see all this has happened. The men coming in from the city. It seems that the city's been lost. There are no signs of the soldiers, the riders, and the knights that went out to the field. They have not returned. And it seems that Elenid and Nicholas have come into the inner castle walls for a last stand.
Debating whether or not to go in and tell the skirmishers to come out and fortify the castle walls.
It's up to you. You still thinking?
Yeah, I'm also looking over my other options.
Yeah.
I'm debating how well awe might help in this situation. Trying to rouse the morale and whatnot.
It could. You could draw all their attention to you. It could improve morale if done the right way. It could distract them. You're not sure. You're not a tactician.
Maybe not awe. Maybe just trying to use throw a leadership role to bolster them.
All right. What do you want to say, or what do you want to do?
I'd like to give them a rousing speech to fortify them against whatever it is they're thinking might be coming for them. because there's not just a hell of a lot else I can do. I may have lied a little bit. I just remembered a thing. What would happen if suddenly the swordsmen, 10 of their number, just happened to become ghouls?
You'd need more time to really ghoul them. I mean, you could give them some vitae.
I mean, I have those 2 bloodstones.
You do. I would say it would take more than a single point of vitae to make them full ghouls. Like, they're not going to get potent. You could probably heal some wounds with it effectively. I would not say that they're going to become ghouls in the sense that you get, ghoul knights or ghoul swordsmen out of it.
Oh no, I'm not thinking about long-term servants. I'm thinking about fortifying their ability to fight and
Yeah, I know. But I'm going to say
them.
it's... With the time you have and the vitae of those stones, it would be enough to probably save a lot of lives. You probably could fortify a few of them.
Yeah, 10. I have a total of 10 blood points stored. Which, granted, it's a whole ass unit of swordsmen, so it's not a huge percentage, but I'm thinking like mechanically and things like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it won't be like these ghoul knights. You won't get their stats.
No, but like on extra attack dice.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Then she will pass among the men with these bloodstones and pray with them over the stone so they can draw forth its how would I couch this?
How are you giving them... I know you can draw vitae from it. Can they draw vitae from it?
Yeah, all they have to do is meditate on it for a moment.
Okay. So then all I need you to do is get their attention away from the defenses and enough on you long enough to meditate. So just give me a charisma leadership roll, standard difficulty.
I feel like a willpower point's worthy of being spent here.
Okay. Oh yeah, 5 successes. That's a complete and total success. These men are looking for any hope. They've never fought things like this. They don't really know what they're fighting, but they're exhausted from the fighting they have done over... It's now been about 30 or 40 minutes. They're scared, and you offering this really inspiring presence helps them, and they agree, and they meditate, and they focus, and they pray with you. You can hear them giving psalms and praying and praying Hail Marys. Pretty much every hope that they could hope for, that they remember from hearing the priest talk. And unbeknownst to them, you make use of these stones to imbue them with some vitae. And they will be a bit stronger for it, so remind me that they have an extra attack die. And that will become very relevant imminently, as there are more calls. Just as soon as you finish meditating with some of these men, you hear more calls. They're coming back over the walls. And you see some of these creatures, these feral men from the north, actually leaping over the walls and crashing into the soldiers beside you, engaging them in battle. Elenid, I need you to make a charisma leadership roll to keep control of your men, as many have died. And morale is low. Talicia has done a lot to help you with that. So I will give you an extra... Yeah, I'll give you an extra 5 die to this because you got 5 successes. Difficulty 7, charisma leadership.
With specialty 4.
Alright. You will be able to keep control of these men. Does Elenid say anything as she tries to gain control and keep them from routing? Or do you rely on your presence?
I'd say yes, but I cannot think of anything particularly inspiring at the moment.
That's okay. Elenid is an inspiring figure, and her presence gives courage to the men. That combined with Talicia's prayers. And so the fighting renews. This time it seems like 5 of them have joined. You've seen what just a few can do, and now they seem to be concentrated in number. What order do you give to your men? Do you want to go for range attacks? Do you want to go for using the strength of your melee? Or a maneuver of some kind? And remind me if I forget, your defense here is at difficulty 5. You have a major advantage fighting within the walls here.
The person commanding the forces here, he is more skilled with melee.
Captain Messier is a kind of terrain master. He's commanded siege defenses in the past. Right now he has a bonus of 2 dice to the defense. You gonna leave it to him?
Yes, she has a different plan.
Okay. Then he will command them to engage melee to try and swarm these gangrel with superior numbers.
Can I assist by use of Nightshade?
How would you like to use Nightshade?
Specifically trying to make it seem like there are more people around the gangrel than there actually are. Try to get the gangrel to strike at the false ones instead of the true ones.
Alright, let me look at this. Each success creates an image of a human size or smaller, or pool successes for 1 large illusion. Then perception alert is difficulty 9 to see through the illusion. So you need active concentration. Strong lighting makes them unbelievable.
Which begs the question, how strong is the lighting there?
It's decent. There are a lot of torches because this is a kill. So the lighting is decent, although There are some shadows. I would say... Yeah, they're already going to be engaged with enough light from the men fighting them that you probably would have a tough time making the illusions believable. So what I'll do is I'll let you try, but it'll be a higher difficulty.
Difficulty 8 instead of 7?
Yes. Alright, so you netted 3 success there. Oh wait, I looked at the wrong one. That's an old roll. So 2 successes, so I'll add 2 to your defense die when they try to attack you. And they also get 2 from Commander Messier. So I'll roll that before I forget it, because they are about to be attacked. So they have a total of 14 defense dice. Both your assistance and Captain Messier's defense. And I'll actually give him an additional 1 from Talicia, +1 attack. I'll count it as defense as well. So 15 for their defending the castle. Okay, and we'll see how the gangrel do in their attack, which is going to be pretty significant. That's not good. So that's not going to go well for them on their defense, but they still get a chance to attack because both sides get to resolve attack and defense at the same time. And Captain Messier hasn't gotten a chance to attack yet, so we have to roll for him. Talisi gives him 1, so that's 12. Messier makes it 14. And I will make these illusions count for that as well, so that gets 16. $16 dice of attack for Captain Messier. Defend. Yeah, the name's wrong. It's not 2, it's 5 gangrel. They rolled very, very well. All right. Oh, thank you. I am rolling at the wrong difficulty. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. So that being the case, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 successes on defense. So they lost 3. When they attacked, 10 successes. Unfortunately, it doesn't change the outcome. So Elenid, the gangrel have concentrated enough that they've become alarmingly dangerous. Your forces here are being decimated. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, all of the warriors in the castle are going to be broken. You can see that happening in front of you. The gangrel are too many now.
Are there any corridors that could be utilized as choke points?
Yes, there are. There are some corridors you can use.
And she will bring that up to the terrain map.
He's busy yelling orders. What are you trying to say to him?
Is he trying to get them, according to what he's yelling, is he trying to get them to a better position, or is he trying to hold firm?
It sounds like he's trying to corner them like he did before. You can hear him yelling out orders.
There are too many. Our forces are going to be scattered in 10 to 15 minutes. If we utilize a choke point or something of that nature, it will go significantly, or should go significantly better, but these are strong opponents.
Go! Around that corner! Quickly! I know, my lady. All that is left is the keep and the Great Hall. Back! Shield strong! Are you calling for them to pull back?
Preferably, yes.
Alright. So you make the call to retreat into the keep. Now the rolls are made. This fighting is going to go poorly. However, you could possibly save some lives here. So as it is, they're going to lose 5 units. Give me a charisma leadership roll, difficulty 8. Actually, it's going to be difficulty 9. You're basically trying to save as many from slaughter as possible and get them into a defensive position. This could not be a worse position to be in, and the number of lives you save may be few, but your successes will be units saved.
Not many.
2 successes is still 2 units. And given that the keep is not very large, I think it's narratively makes sense that you can save the Cainite knights and the ghoul knights here, whereas all the remainder of your archers and swordsmen will die. Do we have Nicholas back?
You do.
Alright, Nicholas, you see the fighting inside the castle wall is going poorly now. The gangrel, there's only a handful of them, maybe 5 here, but they're making quick work of the soldiers in here. The call is being made to retreat into the keep, the last place there is to defend.
And he intends to get in there as quickly as possible.
As you're moving, you can see limbs are being severed, men being thrown over walls, soldiers being swept away with the hand swipes of these gangrel, their entrails being ripped out. It's a bloodbath. Talesia, what are you doing during this time?
Oh, she's already en route to the keep long before the call is made.
Okay. You going straight to the throne room?
Yeah, she's gonna go and find the skirmishers.
Okay. 1 second. So you enter the keep. You basically have to go through these reinforced wooden double doors, and after that it's a short distance across some stone steps into the Great Hall itself, where you've been many times, or the Great Hall, the throne room itself. And you see Ragna is up by the throne. Her sword is out. Lydia is present. Jesper is present. The Canaanite skirmishers have their weapons out. Most of them holding long swords and shields. They all seem quite ready. Is there anything you want to do or say during this time?
Well, there is no point in standing on ceremony any longer, I suppose. And she's going to extend a hand as everyone's filing in, and speak an incantation to summon forth the sword from London.
Summon forth the sword.
Yeah, that's the what you call them? Translocation of the vessel.
Alright, does that require a roll, or is that already done in the past?
It's one of the things that I asked you if I could set up when I first made her.
That's fine. Alright, so what does it look like when Talesia draws forth this sword from apparently nowhere?
There's a brief flash of light as she extends her hand, and when the lights die down, she's holding aloft a shining longsword of her own.
And Jesper is holding what looks like a claymore, and he speaks to you from across the hall. I hope you know how to use that thing, Snick.
In Old Norse, I am my father's daughter.
A faint smile crosses his face, and it's just at that moment that the doors to the gate hall burst open. Elenid and Nicholas come in at the head of a group of the remaining vampiric knights, the ghoul knights. Go ahead.
In the time it took to get from where we were to the throne room, would I have enough time to spend 3 blood points so I can get into the Tenebrous Avenue?
Yes, there's enough time for that.
Yep.
Before you do, I will point out that you will be disappearing from the field, and it will appear as though you're just gone. To the soldiers.
They have 2 commanders here. I pray those commanders don't fuck up.
All right. And indeed, the ghoul captain from Canterbury, Captain Talbot Beauvais, is present as well. You do not see Captain Messier make it inside. But the door to the keep is shut and barred. All the remaining knights have drawn their swords, preparing. There is some silence as the fighting outside dies down and the screams die down briefly. You can still distantly hear some of the noise outside. It quiets. And then... Go ahead.
So... Is it possible to slip underneath the door to cast nightshades on the hallway leading up?
Yes, you can do that.
Alright, I will use the alternate feature of it.
Alright, let me just look at that. So you want to fill this space with visions of chaos and the abyss?
Indeed.
But just in the space between the keep hallway leading up to the throne room itself?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, Wits Occult, difficulty 7. One success, you will get 10 meters of this miasma of chaos leading up to the throne. Is there anything else you want to do in this time?
Tendrils to grab at the approaching forces.
Alright, it does require concentration to maintain a nightshade. Which do you want to do? The tendrils or the nightshade?
Nightshade. Nightshade's more important.
Okay. You can maintain that. One sec while I make a couple notes.
They're strong enough that they break out through the tendrils with ease anyway.
Right. So there's some time where it's silent, almost silent, before the noise is broken by the barred, reinforced wooden doors being burst open, splintering into planks and shards of wood. And you see the 5 gangrel that have torn through the soldiers in the city and the castle, marching forward and led by one man. You see Mjolnir at the front, His claws are bloody, as is his face. All of their faces are covered in blood. You can tell as much has gotten on their hands as on their face and their jaws. These do not look like men, or even people, creatures. Mjolnir points a bloody claw, which drips onto the floor, and points towards Ragna, smiling and extending his fangs as he leaps forward to join the fight. As do all the gang roll.
At that point, concentration would be dropped on the hallway.
Alright. Yes, I am going to give them dice penalties for that. Coming out of a miasma of chaos, they're still going to be impacted, at least for this first round. So I will roll their attack first. And inside these quarters, you are still going to be at -1 difficulty, so do not let me forget that. I probably will have to be reminded. It's still 5 difficulty. I didn't account for their 2 dice penalty. Take 2 successes away. That's 9 successes. That's my reminder. Lydia and Jesper join the fight in this, and they will be adding an additional 5 attack and defense to the retinue here. As Lydia removes her red cloak, revealing the leather armor beneath, using the cloak almost like you'd imagine a bull tamer holding it in one hand, stretched out and wrapped up, her other hand at a blade. It'll be 5 combined from both of them.
I know it's meager, but if Talicia also joins the fight at Jesper's side, would that help bolster anything?
You want to engage melee combat yourself?
Not really, but
if you're gonna engage, what's your melee at?
1.
I will let you add a die, but that also means you're at great risk to your own life.
Oh, I know.
Okay. So I'll add you to the attack and defense. And the last thing that gets revealed here is that as the gangrel emerge and battle is joined, 2 decorative pieces hanging above the entrance to the throne room, which always just looked like part of the wall itself. They were kind of like stone faces of bodies looked carved into the wall, seemed to move. And they begin to remove themselves from the wall, revealing themselves as actual creatures independent from the wall, and leap down. Most of you are probably unaware of what these things could be. They stand around 7 feet tall. They wear very little clothing, although there's little to make them look humanoid. Their faces are grotesque. Their hands are long and broad. And they actually seem to have appendages coming out of the back of them. But they look formidable at the very least. And they land behind the gangrel and engage at the same time, adding an additional 5. Didn't put a difficulty. Remind, this is difficulty 5. I'm not going to forget that. I'm counting 10 successes.
That's what I got.
Okay. So they will net 1 success. 1 unit will be wiped out after everything is said and done for this round, but the attack also happens during this time, so they get a chance for that as well. And again, difficulty 5. 1, 2, 3. Alright, and plus Delicia makes 21. Difficulty 6 by instinct. Nope, I did it. Okay. They're gonna net 15, or they're gonna get 15 successes. Gangrel will defend.
-2, but -2 dice
Thank you.
per unit.
Oh, wow. 15 to 15. They will not lose anyone, barely. The fighting is extremely intense as these creatures come down, surprising the gangrel and distracting several of them. They're quite formidable, almost made of stone themselves. They fight...
May I?
Go ahead.
I feel like being flanked should increase their difficulty on defense.
That's true. That makes sense. I will make it difficulty 7. Help me count that again. I got 8 successes.
I like your idea better. Because I got 9.
I got
9.
Oh, I count.
I like 8 better.
Alright. The 9s have it. Which is still going to be enough to take out all the gangrel. Because it's 1 unit per net success. The fighting is going to be extremely intense. There is going to be a loss of a unit by the end of this. And it is going to be Defender's pick. And since the Defenders have been left to the NPC, I will pick these Ghoul Knights as the sacrifice. So all around, the fighting is extremely close and clustered. The entire throne room is filled as the gangrel move quickly here and there, dodging one blade, hitting one of these large looming creatures of stone, and then engaging Lydia or Jesper in quick slashes. Describe Talicia as she joins the combat.
She's obviously not an expert swordsman, but she makes a fair show of it and does her shield maiden predecessors proud. Ducking in to cut where she's able to, between shields and under defenses, making use of those tight spots the slender female body was designed to fit between.
Right, and what is Nicholas doing during all of this combat?
Staying the hell out of the way. Although he gets fascinated by these creatures who emerge from the walls. He's never seen their like.
And Elenid?
Elenid? I assumed I couldn't do something because I just ended concentration that round.
After the first round, they're all out of it.
Okay. Are there any gangrels left?
By the end of this, we'll say 20 minutes of fighting, it seems that one and all, the gangrel foot soldiers seem to have been defeated.
So all that's left is the Mjolnir.
Mjolnir, by the end of the fight, stands surrounded by the knights, by Lydia and Jesper, by the captains, and by these tall creatures.
Yes, and she is going to make their job easier for them. She is going to engulf him with Tenebrous Avatar, which reduces his dice pool by my obtenebration rating.
Alright, you're going to engulf him, reduce your dice by your obtenebration. He's not going to suffocate. However, you will cover him.
But I assume everyone there is smart enough to know where he is standing.
Yes. No one is yet approaching him, and you are essentially covering him now. And I think, as it becomes apparent that he is surrounded by all of these knights and these creatures, that the strategic portion of this extended battle will have been over, as all of his soldiers are gone. The Einhur Yar, except for him, seem to have been defeated. And before we resolve what he does on his own, now that his men are dead, we are going to end the session a little bit early here, and we will pick this up again at the next game.